What am I going to tell my children? On his forearm, there were 3 well-measured cuts, still bleeding.
The wound I have, I'll have it until I go to my grave.
Kenya tusimame imara. Chris's death will not go in vain.
To professional investigators, they'll follow or pursue all leads available and possible.
Nilala for 1 week. Nilikuwa nalala kwa simiti.
Christopher Chege Musando was not a widely known figure in the country until sometime in September last year when he landed himself a job and a title at the Independent and Electoral Boundaries Commission, IEBC. Appointed as an ICT manager, Chris Chege Musando was assuming a new role at the center of the technology that was to be deployed during the August 8th general election. Chris was the man in charge of all the data, including the electronic voter register, a Kenya integrated management system KIMS kit that had biometrics of over 19 million voters, and now the infamous IEBC portal to which election results from the country's 40,000 polling stations were to be transmitted. Chris was reporting to the man in charge of the ICT infrastructure, James Muhati. An appointment letter dated the first week of September 2016, obtained by KTN News Crime and Investigations Desk, details the daunting task the commission had placed on the shoulders of the 42-year-old father of 5. Musando was to be the man in charge of the IEBC's ICT systems and data support services. In short, Musando was the man to oversee the electronic voting and transmission infrastructure at the IEBC.
So we have put a lot of things in place to ensure that technology works for us on election day. But again, in case of failure, we have also put in place accountability mechanisms to resort to other modes of identification or results transmission for that matter.
In 2017, Musando's role became more pronounced. The ICT manager was on every media outlet, walking the country through election preparedness. Musando had now become the face of technology at the IEBC.
Let's make sure when we do this new technology, we are addressing the problems that occurred in 2013.
In May, 3 months before the August 8th general election, his boss, James Muhati, was sent on compulsory leave, with media widely quoting an internal memo signed by the commission's boss. Muhati was sent home on allegations of failing to cooperate with the auditors who had been commissioned to audit the communications ICT systems. Chris Musando was appointed as the ICT director in an acting capacity. Chris is said to have told a close family member that the commission was planning to send home the ICT director, but there will be no official communication to the media. From then on, Chris Musando was the man to watch in an election where technology will make the difference between success and failure. As the country marched towards the August general election, Chris was busy assuring the commission about the preparedness of the commission and its ICT infrastructure. Weeks before the August 8th general election, James Muhati was quietly reinstated as the ICT boss. The commission that has sent him on compulsory leave did not tell the public about his return. He just got back and got down to work.
Mitambo iko sawa kabisa, nangoja tarehe 8 mwezi wa Agosti.
Musando's last public appearance was on KTN News on a 6 p.m. program hosted by KTN's Zubeida Kome. This was the very evening he went missing.
Kulingana na sheria ambayo ilipitishwa mwaka huu 2017 na bunge, inasema kwamba nambari ya juu kabisa ambayo inaweza kuwa katika kituo ni watu 700.
Just days before Chris Musando was to take the media through a simulation process of transmitting election results, a father of 5 was reported missing by his family. Eva Musando, speaking for the first time to the Kenyan media, told the Lead she last spoke to her husband sometime before midnight on the Friday night. He went missing.
About 10:30, I tried to call him. And he sent a message back and said he was in a meeting. But 15-20 minutes later, he called. And he was in a meeting, I believe, at his office, and told me he was downstairs at the restaurant having a drink, and then he would go home. And we talked. He told me he was to attend a burial of a colleague who had lost the father. But he wasn't sure if he would attend it or not. And we agreed on the usual responsibilities. We'd say, since I'm not around, take care of the kids, buy breakfast and things like that, of which he agreed. And we told each other good night, and we left it at that.
This was the last communication from the wife to the husband. But around 12:30 a.m. Saturday night, Musando texted the wife informing her he was on his way home. He simply texted, "Leaving now."
From whatever location he is, you would estimate. So if he said he was leaving and he said he was in the town center, and it's about past midnight, there's no traffic jam. So it would take him 15 minutes to be in the house. But on that particular day, I wasn't there. So normally if he would take long, I would call and ask, what happened? You said you're on the way.
The widow says she then later remembered that Musando had not carried his keys to the house and sent him a text. The text message was informing Musando not to wake up the children by ringing the doorbell when he arrived at home, but instead ask her to call the house help. Eva says she received a text message from Musando's phone, one she says was unlike the husband's. The text read in part, "Okay, Jaber," and "Mom." Chris, according to the wife, had never texted the letter N for and, but always texted and. Jaber, loosely translated to a beautiful woman, was a name he never used in his text messages to the wife and mother of his 4 children. Chris did not show up that night. The wife was now a worried person.
I think I fell asleep because it was past midnight, so I fell asleep and I realized he hadn't called by morning. I tried to call him in the morning. His phone was off and I thought he was asleep. I tried to call the house help, and my son picked up and asked me if I had left for the safari with their father, and I said no, I didn't, and he told me he hasn't come back. So I kept trying to call him to find out where he was, because it was a bit unusual.
Eva says she called senior commission officials. KTN News Crime and Investigations Desk can now confirm that by the time police detectives in Embakasi were visiting the IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati and the commission chief executive officer Ezra Chiloba, the CID director Ndego Mhoro had already called them. It is not clear why police officers in Embakasi, where Chris stayed, were not informed about the news of the missing senior IEBC staff member before the same was communicated to the director of CID.
And we went to report to the station, which is near our house here at Embakasi, as a missing person. And the whole process of searching began.
We went to IEBC, to also inform them that Chris was missing. And then they decided to make a press release to that effect. And they were discouraging us not to talk to the press.
The family of the slain IEBC official says no one from the commission had contacted them to inquire about the whereabouts of Chris Musando. Usually, Chris Musando was on constant call almost every minute of the day from the chairman Wafula Chebukati and the CEO Ezra Chiloba.
Sunday came and passed, and Monday I was called and told I need to go to somewhere near Integrity House in a hurry. And we went there, and they say now we have to start looking in the mortuaries. So I asked them why, what's going on? And we went to City Mortuary. I asked if I could go in. They said no. My elder brother was there, and he went in with a policeman. They took some time, and my brother came out, and the look on his face when he looked at me, and I asked him, "Ni yeye?" He said yes, and I told him, "Take me in, I want to see." And when I went in, I saw him cold and lifeless. I was in shock. I didn't expect to. Till now, it's still, the picture is there with his eyes shut on a metal, on a slab.
On the cold stone slab was the body of the 44-year-old ICT expert. Musando had been brought to the city mortuary a day earlier. Police telling the media his body had been picked up from a bush in Kikuyu area in Kiambu.
And the moment they unwrapped him, I noticed 3 deep cuts on his hand, on his forearm. There were 3 well-measured cuts, still bleeding. And I asked them to turn him and turn him again, because I couldn't believe that was the most visible thing I could see. And I asked myself, why? And who did this? Those were the only things I kept asking. Who did this and why? I didn't know what to think of it till now. And the only question was, what am I going to tell my children? Because as I left on Monday morning, I told them I'm still going to look for Daddy. And they said, "You'll come back with him?" I said, "Yes." Because I had to assure them I will come back with him. And I also knew I would come back with him. In my mind, I knew he is safe somewhere.
Musando had marks around his neck that indicated he had been strangled by powerful hands. His wrists had marks, so did his legs. It appears someone had tied him up before killing him. Christopher Chege Musando was now a dead man. The focus now shifting to the events of the 2 nights that he had been away from home and in the hands of his killers. A simulation exercise that was supposed to be conducted by the IEBC was temporarily postponed. This as officials of the commission streamed to the city mortuary to view the remains of their departed colleague.
We are a few days from elections, and we all know it's the duty of the government to provide security for all Kenyans. And at this point in time, I demand from the government that they provide security for all employees of IEBC for us to give Kenyans a free and fair election.
By the time the simulation was taking place, the police had come up with a theory and a possible motive behind his murder. 21-year-old Carol Ngumbi's name featured prominently in what appeared to be a new lead. She was the last person to be seen with the slain IBC ICT manager. The National Police Service claiming at the time that Chris Musando's murder may have been a crime of passion, a love triangle gone wrong.
And on the side, there's, I believe it was a boot because it was covered in a blanket. And I asked them, who's this and what is this? And he opened up. And I could see it was a lady and her teeth were out. Like somebody who was gnashing, like looked like probably died in pain. But I couldn't identify who that was at all. I had no idea who that was. And I asked them, we came to identify one person. Who is this? And they say the lady was picked 500 meters away from where they picked my husband. But that didn't bother me then because, I mean, I was looking for my husband and I'd found him. So I didn't bother much with the lady there. It was the last thing on my mind to think of anything.
But questions were suddenly raised about the identity of the 21-year-old medical student, if indeed it was a love triangle murder. Who was Chris fighting with over? The medical student.
A claim of a lady to be his girlfriend, or the term they use, mpango wa kando, does not exist in our world, does not exist in my family. And I demystify all those speculations because I will treat them as speculations. That is not true.
Someone is trying to cover up. He wasn't killed because of that. How many men in this society? Even me, I'm a lady, and sometimes I go to social places. And I find somebody I know with a person who is not the wife. Why are they not killed? Why Chris? And then they are putting a cover-up of a woman. We want to know who killed him.
Police turned to CCTV cameras mounted on major roads in the city in an attempt to explain the movements of the slain ICT manager. The story widely carried by the media was that Chris Musando's vehicle was seen exiting the Central Business District in the city a few minutes to 2 a.m. According to this police account, Musando's motor vehicle had 3 occupants on board, among them a woman donning a yellow attire. The woman, according to the media reports, was heavy-set. 2 other people sat at the back. Police are yet to disclose their identities. Musando's car, according to the police narrative, is seen exiting the city center onto Huru Highway. The car is later captured making a U-turn at Mlolongo area, 20 minutes drive from the city center. The motor vehicle is then spotted at Bellevue, where Musando is captured speaking on phone with the lady occupant standing next to him. Last time Chris Musando's vehicle is captured is when it leaves the city center onto the thicker superhighway. This was the initial police version of events and has since remained so. But now KTN News Investigation Desk has unearthed gaping holes in this police account. The lead now traces the movements of the slain IBC senior manager, traces the possibility that someone else, not Chris Musando, was in charge of his motor vehicle the night he died. Police theories that have junior police officers questioning if indeed the National Police Service is keen on arresting and prosecuting those behind Musando's murder. KTN News has obtained an internal communication from police officers manning the IC3 center, which monitors the movements of people in the city center and its environs. Chris Musando stepped out of his office at the University Towers on Friday night, headed to a restaurant on the ground floor of the building. Chris then moved across to Club 7 restaurant, where he was joined by 2 other people, among them the 21-year-old Karungumbo. It is said that at around 20 minutes past 2 a.m. that night, one of the people with the ICT manager left, leaving him with a young lady. 4 minutes later, Chris Musando's vehicle is seen leaving the Central Business District in the company of a woman wearing a red top. The woman in this CCTV footage, according to the police investigators, fits the medical student's description. Musando's vehicle then moves towards Kenyatta Avenue near Utalii House. A minute later, the two are seen on Uhuru Highway before it takes a left turn onto Bunyala Road roundabout. 10 minutes later, the same vehicle is captured making its way back into the city center, but this time with only one person on board. The woman in the red top is missing. 13 minutes later, the same vehicle is captured on Juja Road towards Thika Road. Police insiders told KTN's Crime and Investigations Desk this was the last time that Chris Musando's vehicle was spotted on the CCTV cameras mounted on major roads in the city. Was it really Chris Musando driving the vehicle captured leaving the Central Business District on the night the ICT manager went missing? The questions begin at what is believed to be around Mata Hospital, where the vehicle makes a U-turn before making its way back into Uhuru Highway. The person driving the car is now pulled down the windscreen sunshade. Considering that it was in the middle of the night, why will it have been necessary for this driver to shield his face? If indeed it was Chris Musando driving his own vehicle, and if indeed he was the one who had pulled down the sunshade, what or who was he hiding from the night he went missing? The contradictions have now led some police investigators into believing that the man on the wheels of Musando's car at this point was in fact not the IBC official himself. This line of investigations further suggests that the new driver will have indeed taken Musando's shot in order to fool the cameras that it was the IBC official still driving the car. To date, however, none of these crucial leads have been explored to their final conclusion. And it remains a mystery how Musando could have made all these seemingly logical movements in the city on the night it disappeared. Chris Musando's vehicle was discovered near TRM Mall along Thika Road on Sunday morning, with a night guard telling us he saw the person who brought the vehicle and the person was not Chris Musando.
Ilikuwa ndani ya katikati ya hizo gari, nikaona mwangaza juu hizo magari ilikuwa nafunika mimi. Kutoka kidogo juu nilikuwa nataka aona ni nini inasimamishwa na mwenyewe akarudi. Hakuona mimi, na mimi naona yeye.
The night guard says he saw the vehicle pull over outside the apartment behind the mall, a frequent occurrence on Friday nights.
Nilikuwa kama magari najaa hapa paka huko ya hao vijana. Najua hao vijana kufika weekend wanachukua magari ya baba yao. Anakuja kunya naye hapa.
The night guard described a light, slender and tall man as a driver who abandoned Chris Musando's vehicle and quickly walked away.
Alikuwa size yako tu, si mrefu sana. Alikuwa na jacket grey. Akarudi tu huko.
So alikuja akapaki na kaenda.
Kupaki na kufunga mlango yake anaenda.
The night guard says the motor vehicle stayed parked there the entire night.
Kitu za 2 ya usiku. Kuna jamaa mwingine alikuja hapo, akaangalia hiyo gari, akaangalia na mimi naona yeye akaangalia hiyo gari, akateremka huko chini. Kufika saa 7 ndio hao wakaanza kuingia hapo. Moses Kure walikuwa hapo na polisi zaidi ya 30.
The man who dropped off Chris Musando's vehicle was not limping. Chris Musando had a noticeable limp after undergoing a hip replacement procedure. Eva Musando told the lead, Chris had undergone surgery on his hip and one that had affected his walking style. The person who emerged from his vehicle near the TRA mall was lean and tall and did not have a problem walking. Who was this man driving Musando's vehicle in the dead of the night?
Anatembea tu sasa, anafunga gari yake anatoka anaenda.
A woman who owns a small pub in the area told police investigators that she saw the car pulling outside the mall and saw a man dressed in a shirt and what looked like a dark jacket. She saw his face as she closed her business premises for the day. Who was this person who was driving Chris Musando's car? Where was Chris Musando and the lady police claimed was killed alongside the 44-year-old father of 5 at the time his vehicle was making its way to Thika Road? Thika Highway has several cameras along the way. Why those manning security cameras located in the CBD decided to share selected few routes allegedly Chris Musando used still remains unclear. Why did the police inform the public that Musando's car was seen leaving the city center for Thika Road in the company of a woman, and yet the alleged Musando captured on the CCTV footage was a lone man driving into town? The lead has now learned that the night Musando died, he was in the company of a man police have identified as Dan, a relative of a high-ranking government official. Dan told the police that he was with Chris Musando the night he went missing, but later left for a night out in a club in Kilimani. The same Dan told another family friend that he was on his way to Naivasha on the night the IBC manager went missing. It is not clear if police investigators sought a clarification on the changing story from a man police should have treated as a person of interest. When KTN News Investigations Desk got in touch with Dan, the businessman come friend told us he was asked by the police not to speak to the media until the National Police Service is done with investigating the murder. By the time we were filing this story, he was yet to speak to us. The lead has it that this man, Dan Kinyo, is a chief executive director of an IT company which has tentacles across 5 countries.
Dan, how are you? After how long? I just needed a minute of your time, just a minute. Okay.
Dan Kinyo promised to return our calls, but he was yet to do so by the time KTN was airing this story. Some strange occurrence marked the discovery of the bodies of Chris Musando and the medical student said to have been killed in the company of the ICT manager. Mortuary attendants at the country's city mortuary had not reported the booking of a body fitting Chris Musando's description. A family member says local police officers at the Bakassi police station sent an image of Chris Musando to a mortuary attendant who called back to say they did not have a body resembling that of Chris Musando. This is despite police reports indicating that Chris Musando's body was booked at the mortuary on Saturday. Where was Chris Musando's body by the time the family was inquiring about it? KTN Investigations Desk can now authoritatively report that Chris Musando's body was booked in the private wing of the mortuary, where already identified bodies are booked by police officers or relatives.
The police are the ones who brought this body. And of course, when the body was brought on Saturday, even now you can still recognize from the body that is Chris. The photograph was, shown over the TV. Anybody else could have seen, that was Chris.
Family members say Musando's body was too clean for a man whose remains were supposedly collected from a thicket after spending a night there. Despite having visible strangling marks inflicted by human hands, Musando's body was cleaned up either by mistake or design. Who is this person who booked Chris Musando's body to be housed in the private wing of the mortuary? And exactly when and what time was Musando's body brought to the morgue? The government pathologist made startling observations after examining Chris Musando's body. The pathologist says Musando's body had a deep cut in his left wrist, which he says was clinical and precise. Musando had bruises on his knuckles and his thigh had abrasions, so did his entire back. Musando's killers appear to have spent some time with him before strangling him with bare hands. The bruises on his knuckles, the deep cut in his left hand deep enough creating a gnashing wound, indicated the people killed the ICT manager that night wanted information from him before they had him killed.
There's no doubt that he was tortured and murdered.
I could see it was a lady and her teeth were out, like somebody who was gnashing, like looked like probably died in pain.
Caro had a rope around his neck, and it's not clear why she was strangled with the rope, while Chris Musando met his death with his killer's bare hands while staring down at him. KTN News Crime and Investigations Desk visited the scene of Chris Musando's body that coincidentally was widely known to the locals of Kikuyu Township. The spot where Chris Musando's body was dumped had another body dumped there the previous day.
Huyo Charlie ama ni Demon alikuwa?
Huyo alichukuliwa before Musando anini amandwe. Sasa naye Musando akadimari tupo hapo hivyo.
Then came the shocker. Police had told the media that Caro Ngube's body was discovered 500 meters away from Chris Musando's body. KTN News has learned that the 21-year-old's body was discovered more than a kilometer away. KTN News has learned that the 21-year-old's body was discovered more than a kilometer away. Police promised to investigate Chris Musando's murder and bring his killers to book.
But I want to say that we are professional investigators. They'll follow, they'll pursue all leads available and possible to get to the bottom of this. I'll put in my best team, and if the need be, we'll seek support from elsewhere. But I'm very confident that we have a team that is able to unravel this. They have done it before. I don't see why we can't do it now.
But so far, it appears the police only rushed for the wrong suspect. The Criminal Investigations Department's detectives' first stop was Chris Musando's mobile phones. Chris had 3 mobile phones. A printout seen by KTN's Crime and Investigations Desk had the police pick up his last few calls instead of establishing contact made by him at least a week into his death. Police investigators went first for 2 people who later turned out not to have anything to do with Chris Musando's murder. They arrested his landlord Andrew Rono and Idra Kisasa, whose only mistake was a text message sent to him the night Chris Musando met his death. Andrew had allegedly threatened Chris Musando in December last year, a matter reported at Central Police Station, and no action was taken. The landlord had not made any other contact with the slain IBC official by the time the father of 5 was getting killed. Why police picked on him 10 months after the murder of the slain IBC chief has baffled many. Was Andrew an easy catch for a police department that had failed to inspire faith in the way it was conducting its investigations? Tucked away somewhere in Migori County is yet another suspect picked up by police investigators for questioning over Chris Musando's murder. This young girl name withheld, was arrested from her parents' house and ferried to Nairobi for questioning.
Wakaambia mamangu ananitaka. Ati kuna mtu sijui nilichukua simu yake, sijui simu ilipotea. Nikamwambia mimi sijui, na mimi sina simu. Wakaniambia twende Kisii. Sijui tunaenda kufanya, waliniambia wanaenda kula, naenda kupigwa picha, wanaenda wanipige picha, wajue ukweli. Tukaenda, walienda kwa hoteli wakakula. Kisha wakatoka wakielekea Nairobi. Kufika Narok, kuna mjaluo mwingine alimpiga mamangu. Eti bado tuko Kisii. Na tulikuwa tumefika Narok. Akaambia mamangu eti tunakimbia mpaka Nairobi ndio turudi, tunaenda kujua ukweli.
Reason, the 17-year-old primary school student had allegedly used her mobile phone line to send Chris Musando threatening messages.
Alikuwa anasema, alafu anasema eti simu yangu ilitreten Musando, ilimtumia messages kumtreten.
Police did not disclose the text messages, but went ahead to have her locked up and later charged in court.
Nilala for 1 week. Nilikuwa nalala kwa simiti.
The National Police Service would later take the young girl to court as investigations in Chris Musando's murder appear to get underway.
Unajua mtu aliuawa anaitwa Musando, nikamwambia mimi sijui. Haujui Musando? Nikamwambia mimi sijui. Na ulisikia mtu wa IBC mwingine aliuawa? Nikamwambia mimi nilikuwa nimeona kwa television. Kaniambia hiyo kesi imekushika. Eti kuna msichana mwingine aliuawa na huyo Musando. Ati mimi ni mmoja wao watu waliuawa watu.
It was later to emerge that the young girl had nothing to do with Chris Musando's murder. The Director of Public Prosecutions ordered for immediate and conditional release, indirectly inducting the police department for carrying out short investigations.
Mr. Inspector General, every suspect or person of interest that the police have spoken to has been released, either by the courts or by the DPP. What does this say about the level of investigations? Is it an indictment on perhaps shoddy investigations that are being done by the police?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
So how is it that all of these people were released, including the landlord, and it's all on the basis of the quality of the evidence that is before the courts?
When we launch investigations, it is usually broad-based. So it's a meticulous process, and the end state being getting the person who committed that offense. So many people may be arrested, others may be released along the way, but the eventual result is to get the person who did it.
But one even went to court, the landlord, and was then released from there.
Because the charge could not be sustained.
Because of the evidence?
Certainly not.
So why do you think the charge could not be sustained in a court of law? Because the court of law weighs the evidence that is before it.
That's it, because we could not...
If the court doesn't find enough evidence, then what does that say about the level of investigations that were done into this horrific murder at such an important time in the country's history?
It doesn't of course, indict us that we are incompetent or do short jobs. It doesn't at all, I don't think so.
Despite police being aware that a personal assistant of a high-ranking commission official was tasked by the boss to track down Chris Musando's vehicle on the night he went missing, the personal assistant was not called in for questioning. Chris Musando's vehicle was parked at an adjacent building to the Anniversary Towers, but records indicate it left the building some minutes after 9 p.m. on the Friday he went missing. It was before this when senior commission officials inquired from his personal assistant about the whereabouts of the ICT manager.
And we also want to know how many people from IEBC, his colleagues, whom he worked with, whether they are also being investigated, whether they have recorded statements, because they worked with him, and this thing is actually work-related.
KTN News Crime and Investigations Desk has established that Chris was the lead ICT project manager of the 2017 general election, working directly under the Commission's Chief Executive Officer, Ezra Chiloba. He was the man who assigned passwords to all commissioners authorized to access the results transmission servers at the IEBC by the time he met his death. Musando was also the man who trained the IEBC commissioners weeks before he was killed.
Chris was one of the most dedicated employees of IEBC in the ICT sector. He was the driving stone in the IEBC sector. But he leaves behind a team at IEBC whom he has trained, who will carry on his work.
Chris will make light-hearted remarks about how hard it would have been to rig the August 8 general election, at times saying he was walking around with a computer chip in his arm. Chris Musando's arm had a deep wound that the pathologist's report said it was inflicted in a clinical way. The cuts on both hands were similar. Was someone trying to get the imaginary chip from Chris Musando's arms? Was Chris Musando being subjected to torture with his killers trying to get specific information he had, or was this group of people out to kill him? What is it Chris Musando knew?
He died because of the work he was doing. If he was at National AIDS Council, I would be having my brother with me. He would have not died.
It is now emerging that the girl killed alongside Chris Musando was introduced to him 3 months earlier by a close friend whose movements police are yet to question. The 21-year-old Caro wanted to be attached to the commission, but Chris reportedly informed her that the commission was not recruiting interns at the time. Police are yet to put their finger on why the two will be killed together and by who. The death of Chris Musando has been a painful event for the mother. As the trail of his killer seemingly grows cold, the mother says those who killed her son have robbed her of her soul.
Mwenye aliua Chris, kama mimi napata mimi nakata na meno yangu, kweli kabisa, nakata na meno yangu. Chris ndio mtoto yangu ya miso, shogo yangu. Shogo ndio nangojanga mama yake. Shogo ndio bwana ya mama yake. Chris ndio bwana yangu. Chris ndio mtoto yangu.
The mother says Chris was named after famous footballer Chege Ouma. She says she would have wished for the son to live to bury her and not the other way around.
Anza kilia kabisa, nalia. Anasema mwenye aliua mtoto yangu hii na mtoto yangu hiyo ndio daktari yangu, ndio nasaidia mimi. Chris ndio mwenye pesa ya kununua dawa ya kukaa kwa ward. Mimi nakaa kwa boma wiki moja, mwezi 2 nakaa kwa ward, na hii yote juu ya Chris.
Because Chris told my mom, Mama, don't worry, I am here for you. We'll take care of you. Even when you die, we'll bury you decently. Because death has to come to all of us. So we'll make you comfortable, and if God takes you, you'll still have a decent burial. But it has happened the other way. It's my mom who has buried him instead of him doing what he had promised.
The mother is yet to wrap her head around a killing that has left her in deep pain.
Maneno ya Chris anauma mimi sana. Anauma. Maneno ya kifo ya Chris nauma mimi sana. Chris ndio bwana yangu. Chris ndio mtoto yangu. Kitinde ya mimba. Na mtoto kitinde ya mimba. Kama mama yake iko ndio nasaidianga mama. Hata kama naenda kupiga boma yake, ndio napelekea mama yake, najengia nyumba kadogo namna hiyo. Na Chris imetupa mimi. Mimi taenda wapi? Ataenda wapi? Ataenda wapi? Ataenda wapi? Maneno ya Chris. Maneno ya Chris anasinda mimi kabisa.
Police are yet to release Chris Musando's vehicle to the family months after his killing. The police have told the family they are still dusting it for fingerprints.
Musando's car has not been returned to his family. Why?
I'm quite frankly, I'm not aware about that one. That it has not been returned, I don't know.
Inspector General, this is a big one. This was an important one. Do you not have all the details at hand?
You see, about the cars having been taken away and whether it is still with us or not, at this point in time, I may not have that information.
Again, you are the Inspector General of Police. We expect that you would be on top of every investigation, be it Samantha Pendo, be it... but this is of a prominent person. But you're telling us the investigations are ongoing, but you cannot be specific about some of the details? Why is that?
I'm saying I cannot be specific as to certain details, like, for instance, you have asked me whether we are still in possession of that car or not. At this point in time, I may not have those facts. Yes, indeed, it is. It is a major investigation of a prominent personality that is of great public interest. That is undeniable, isn't it? And, I mean, quite frankly, in view of the kind of stuff that this office handles, and the fact that direct investigation is delegated to another entity, with the ultimate responsibility of obviously being me, yeah. I may not have all the facts with me every time. That's what I'm explaining.
The murder file is no longer in the hands of police investigators, where the murder of Musando was first reported at. The matter has now been taken over by the Homicide Department that directly falls under the Director of Criminal Investigations, Dego Mohoro. The Homicide Group is the same one that took over the investigations into Jacob Juma's murder. Not a single suspect, not a single clue, not a single hint has ever been established into the murder of the businessman. This murder trail has since grown cold. Those in the know say Chris died because of the position and role he was to play during the August 8th general election.
We need to know why he was killed. We need to know what wrong he did. Even if he hurt someone, we want to know why the person had to do that. And we've seen the way investigation is going. And we are asking the government of Kenya that we need to see justice. They need to, we know they have the capacity to know who Chris killers are.
Mimi nataka serikali asaidia. Ajua mtu aliua Chris. Mimi naenda kamata yeye na mkono yangu namna hiyo. Aone yeye, nauliza yeye. Kwa nini aliua mtoto yangu? Kama alifanyia makosa, kwa nini hapana kuja kwangu?
But this is unlikely. Just like the murder of Jacob Juma, the killers of Chris Musando at large, waiting to pounce on their next prey.
My question would always be, why would somebody want him dead? And for what reason? He had no bad debts with people. He was very okay. So I still ask, why and what for? Why would you do that to myself? Leave me a very young widow? And why, again, would you orphan my children? Why would you really do that? I don't understand. And for what reason?
For now, the family of Chris Musando is without a man the widow says was a strong pillar, best friend, husband, and father.
He's loving, that's for sure. Chris is humorous. Chris is very innovative. Chris put people first before himself. He was very selfless. And Chris was just the best. Any woman would ask for, any child would ask for as a father.
With 5 children, the youngest hardly 2 years old, Eva Musando has been left to shoulder an unexpected burden. The burden of raising 5 children alone without a father and husband. Denson Sarigo, The Lead, KTN News.